Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the CSL. I'm Joe. I'm joined here today by Fear Dragon, and we've got an awesome series for you guys tonight. Waterloo versus UC Berkeley. This is a super important one, Ravi.
Yeah, this is really important for deciding who is going to be making out what place in the groups for this kind of stage. And this is really, really cool because the best way you can actually describe this is that the loser is going to be going out, it sounds like, in 4th place in their group. And the winner will either make it out in 1st in the case of Waterloo or 2nd in the case of UC Berkeley. As in case you couldn't guess it, it's going to be UC Berkeley versus Waterloo.
Yeah, and I'm really excited. Both these teams have a lot of super high level players. Both of them have a decent amount of depth too, and it's something you don't always get to see in the CSL. I do think our first series today is going to be a PVZ with Yenfu versus Silky, and I'm pretty excited to get into this game here.
All right, we are going to be doing exactly that. It's worth noting again that Silky, one of the big hard hitters, I think, for UC Berkeley. So I'm interested to see what Yenfu can bring out against them. But let's go ahead and jump in and introduce those players then.
Spawning here in the bottom right-hand corner, playing for UC Berkeley and Psystorm, it is the green Zerg player, or the red Zerg player, Silky.
And his opponent, spawning up in the top left-hand corner of the map, we have the teal Protoss player. Give it up for Waterloo's Yenfu. So, I think it's actually very important right now that since we have the beginning of a PVZ, it has a little bit of a slow build-up and whatnot, unless there's like some sort of cheeky shenanigans coming out from our Zerg player, Silky. But it's very important to talk about the kind of pacing of this particular match and who's favored in which one of the other games, because that puts a lot of pressure, it puts a lot of perspective into who really needs to create those upsets. Because right now, I actually think that Silky pretty heavily favored coming into this one, but in the next game, I would actually give that favoritism to Waterloo. So if we end up having a tied up 1-to-1 situation, I'm not too sure who I want to favor in the 2v2 or game 4. So it very easily could tilt one way or the other in that game 3 or game 4.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something that we kind of think about just looking at this lineup is Waterloo really wants to close things out before game 5. Silky is probably the only pro gamer here in this lineup, and you really, really don't want to count on beating a player that is the caliber of Silky to try to close out this series, especially when it's just so important for the playoff seedings here. So I think if Waterloo can try to close things out before game 5, that's going to be the best way to win. Whereas UC Berkeley, they just have to take 2 maps, and then they know they can go to that ace match with Silky, and that's a player that can handle that kind of pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I would say that the Riddler is probably, I would call the ace right now for Waterloo. He's still a very good player, and he's actually done some really great work versus a lot of other pro players. But I do agree. I think that Silky is still going to be a bit favored going into that kind of matchup. But let's talk about this game so far, because Yenfu still has the opportunity to maybe create a bit of an upset. I believe that you said that he was actually a Grandmaster League player as well, so I'm not too familiar with him, but he is opening up with Stargate, a pretty typical thing to do in PvZ these days.
Yeah, you get your Oracle out and you get the Phoenixes to get that map control. Definitely just gives you a lot of presence on the map. You're not as likely to die to anything too crazy. First Adept going to get up in front of Silky's base here and actually shade on in, just get the count off, scout those drones, and then shade out.
All right. We'll see how much damage you can actually get done, or even just some scouting information. Killing off a creep tumor, or oh, nice cancel from Silky. Keeps that creep tumor alive. Kind of underratedly important to just get that creep spread going over to your 3rd base. It just makes it a lot easier to deal with additional Adept attacks later on. But we actually have the Void Ray coming out. Now, from Yenfu, I've seen more of this Void Ray play, and I really have been wondering if this is just a reaction to so many Zerg players going for these Overlord drop plays and these Roach Ravager all these kind of cheeky early game attacks. I think the Void Ray can be kind of nice for helping to defend against that stuff. So I'm still not 100% sure if that's really the reasoning why so many pro players are doing this, but I kind of like it.
Yeah, well, Silky is going to have full information here. He knows that Oracle isn't the first thing out, although it is going to be the second thing out behind this Void Ray. So this Void Ray, just to give a little bit of solidness to Yenfu's opener here, ward anything off, and maybe throw Silky a bit of a curveball.
Yeah, we'll see how well he handles this. He is going for +1 melee, Silky is right now, as well as just continuing to drone on up like an absolute madman. He does have, I think, the potential to start building some spore crawlers now, and he would just get them out around the time that the Oracle will be popping out and making its way across the map. He's still not doing it, so I am getting a little bit concerned, and there's also a really quick leap he can come down.
Yeah, that's definitely scary, but before we get to that, we're going to see what damage this Oracle can do, because these mineral lines are fairly naked. 3 queens up at the third. They are there to help spread creep, but there is very little inside the main and the nap. But Silky's Spider Sense is tingling. He does get those first couple spore crawlers down, and that's going to help a lot with this oncoming attack.
Yeah, a little bit of greed, I think, coming out from Silky there, because if that Oracle had just made a mad dash across the map, Silky, I think, would have been in a bit of a pickle. He would have probably lost a few more workers than he wanted to, just because he has 5 queens up, but you can't really guarantee knowing where the Oracle's going to come in from. And the Oracle's stuck behind to try and defend against a big Ling Flood that could have happened over by the third to try and get a cancel. So Yenfu playing a little bit safe, and Silky able to capitalize on that, and also pushes back the Oracle, gets some damage on it, good amount of damage as well.
Yeah, that's really nice. That Oracle is significantly damaged now. Silky actually going for the third cancel as well, sending some Lings across the map for the counterattack here. He is going to at least kill the pylons. This Void Ray is going to start putting some damage down. With the Adept, it looks like Yenfu should be able to hold on. Once this Oracle comes back, that should seal the deal.
Yeah, and luckily that Oracle never actually activated the Pulsar Beam earlier, so it's got plenty of energy to knock back some of those Lings, even if he loses the pylons, which is annoying, especially if you're trying to produce carriers, because you'll get supply block very quickly with that. As we already see, he's getting pretty close to being supply block, but throwing down the third Stargate, and you have to remember that Silky has no idea about this, but he does have another massive flood of Lings making their way across the map. If he can shut down that third, he does shut down on that carrier production kind of indirectly.
Yeah, well, these Lings are going to get on top of a lot of these probes here. Yenfu going to evacuate quickly. Good reaction time from him. This Oracle's helping to try to clean things up, as is the Void Ray, but actually all those probes go back to mining, and I mean, he might eventually clean this attack up, but that killed a lot of probes from Silky.
Yeah, that was a pretty substantial number. We've had 16 go down in this game so far, which is pretty rough, but the carriers are still continuing to come out one by one. And Yenfu is not exactly going to have this most stellar economy, but he kept that third alive. And he can still mine from the gas geysers there. It really is up to Silky to make sure that he can get up a large enough army that he's not going to just die to the carriers. And he's actually going for a look at him. He still just has no idea about this, I think.
Well, his Overseer did just get the scout off in the third. He saw those 3 Stargates producing carriers. And now he certainly knows Fear Dragon. His reaction is going to be the Spire here. Can he get enough up in time, though?
Yeah, that is going to be a big part of the question here, because there are already 2 carriers out and 2 more on the way. Remember, I was talking, we do finally have a third carrier getting started up. But again, this is actually a lot of time that Yenfu was able to kind of buy for himself before Silky ended up reacting. So he gets the revelation down on the Spire, but I love Silky's response. He's just flooding out Lings because he knows the army really isn't that big, and the third is still super vulnerable.
Yeah, Yenfu's seeing this reaction. He's trying to get as many units out as he can, but you're not going to get enough Adepts out to stop that huge wall of Banelings. Silky smelling blood in the water. He's going for the kill. He's setting himself up to attack from absolutely every angle here, and it's going to be on Yenfu to try to defend a giant Ling Banal in with carriers.
Slow Banelings, but I mean, the only thing slower than these Banelings are the carriers. They just have no chance to react, and even if they did, they'd be dealing with the Lings over by the third, which are going to kill off, sure, or get killed off by these carriers in the Void Rays, but they're going to kill off a lot of probes in the process, and it also seems like those Banelings are able to clean up that natural expansion mineral line.
Yeah, I think Yenfu did a pretty good job of hanging on to his third base worker line, but he lost every single probe mining minerals in the natural, I believe. He's getting it repopulated now, doing some good transferring, taking care of that oversaturation in the main, and he's continuing to produce carriers. Silky has full information. Yenfu is going to try to make it happen anyways.
Yeah, this is going to come down to the fact that Yenfu has still been able to keep all those carriers alive. Lings and Banelings don't exactly kill carriers, guys. So Yenfu has been continuing to do that, and he's still getting out a few of these Void Rays as well, which will be helpful versus Corruptors. But it is going to be the question, has Silky bought himself enough time and space that Yenfu won't feel comfortable moving out across the map before the corruptor count gets too high? Because that is quite literally, besides one single Zergling that's sitting on his own like a watchtower, the entire army right now is Silky. It's just corruptors. And that may actually be enough.
Oh, this is a really nice positioning here that Silky has found. Yenfu needs to find a way to come back and defend these. He doesn't want to let these carriers get picked off as they start popping out here. And Silky just going to pee on those Stargates for a little bit and then back off.
All right. Yeah, Corruptor's not actually getting too much damage done there. Like you said, going to have to back off. But he's getting up a pretty substantial number at this point. He's up to 17. Even if there are 4 Void Rays out, 2 carriers in production to combine with the other 4, I really am liking Silky's chances in this because he's actually gotten 5 bases. He can replenish these Corruptors. Guess who cannot replenish his carriers that quickly?
Yeah, getting a free Void Ray too is really nice because the Void Rays are what's going to bust through that big Corruptor cloud. Here comes the fight. Silky trying to take it as best he can here. Actually, those Void Rays doing absolute work with the upgraded weapons here, and +2 is almost done. This could get even more cost-effective for Yenfu.
Yeah, most of the upgrades right now for Silky are on those melee upgrades, which are not super helpful for the Corruptors anymore. And that shield battery actually really causing some problems because the Corruptors were just shy of being able to maybe one-shot that Void Ray. So the Void Ray just gets healed back up before the Corruptors even get to fire their next kind of burst of attack. And okay, here we go. One of the carriers does get sniped off, but at the cost of 1, maybe 2 of these Corruptors. I mean, these aren't exactly great trades for Silky, but he still does have the superior economy.
Yeah, and the big thing is Silky with a perfect micro here can kind of kite and back away. It's hard for the carriers to chase here, and Silky going to continue picking off these Void Rays, those dangerous Corruptor Buster units here. And as long as he can keep that count low enough where he can keep engaging, I think this is a win for him.
Yeah, 5 Void Rays have lost their lives and 1 carrier, and another Void Ray getting low. But I mean, there are a lot of Corruptors getting bled off over here. It really is a question. If Silky, again, like loses too much, and Yenfu finally says, I have enough carriers, screw this, I'm going across the map and I'm going to just kill your main base or something, then this actually does become a little bit problematic because Silky only has so much raw unit production power.
Yeah, and Yenfu actually is about to have 4 more Void Rays pop out. That's going to help a lot in this fight as Silky continues to try to chip away here. He's trying to pick off these Void Rays one by one. It looks like his hive is now done, so he can maybe start getting some Vipers out, pull a couple of these Void Rays away, snipe them off instead of being forced to take these cost-ineffective trades. But huge run by going down on the 3rd.
Yeah, honestly, at this point, I do think that Yenfu just kind of has to maybe think about giving up that 3rd base, because if he just recalls his army or moves it too far away, oh, he's gonna recall it, but now the Corruptors can just go after either the Nexus or the Stargates or the Fleet Beacon, and he's gonna actually go after the Photon Cannons first, kind of spread out those Corruptors, and he does defend his 3rd base, loses most of his ground army, but now it's just gonna end up losing most likely all these Stargates, or a bunch of them.
Yeah, he does have a couple of Void Rays here, but a couple of Void Rays cannot stand against a Corruptor Cloud of that size. Now more Void Rays coming in from the back. Silky feels the need to back off, knowing the carriers are quick and reinforcement behind here. But Silky's army looks a lot scarier than Yenfu's.
Yeah, 24 Corruptors, so now just 3 of these carriers and 6 of the Void Rays. Yenfu has a somewhat scary army, and I do think that he could probably take an engagement. What's the problem? Can he take 2 engagements? Can he take 3 engagements? Even with 4 Void Rays coming out at a time, you end up seeing that, yeah, he can push back Silky, he can maybe establish this 4th base, but every single time he's trading out units for it.
Yeah, but this mothership is going to be so helpful if he can hang on till it. There is no Overseer in the immediate vicinity, and that means Silky won't be able to fight him. But it looks like all these Void Rays going to die before it gets out, and that's where the real damage was coming from.
Oh man, Prismatic Alignment was on cooldown. Silky reading this situation perfectly. He goes after the final Void Ray. A single Stalker warped in because there were only actually ever 2 warp gates created. And as the last carrier is going to end up falling, I think so do Yenfu's chances of upsetting Silky in this series.
Yeah, the mothership comes out, and it almost feels like the final boss in a video game. But that is game number 1 goes to Silky and UC Berkeley.
Yeah.
Really well done.
And again, I think that it was a more expected result, but Yenfu, honestly, he did put up a better fight than I think I would have normally given someone who has to go up against Silky credit for, because Silky's a hard opponent, man. Silky is not an easy guy to defeat. And we'll see kind of how exactly Waterloo will try and bring this back. Because again, that next match, our next match is going to be another 1v1, but this time I do give a bit of favoritism to Waterloo. I think that this is maybe going to be something that Berkeley could also still take, but I give favoritism to Waterloo because it's going to be the Riddler facing off versus Padre. And Padre, I think, Joe, you know a little bit about him and kind of where he's been at, how much StarCraft he has actually been playing lately.
Yeah, Padre hasn't been playing a huge amount lately, whereas the Riddler's a very active player. I think Padre at his peak was really up at that kind of top high GM level. With the Riddler currently is there. So we'll have to see when we come back whether or not Padre can kind of shake off the rust and make things happen, or if the Riddler can put one on the board for Waterloo. Don't go anywhere, guys. We will be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the CSL. We are hopping into our second game. UC Berkeley has a 1-0 lead over Waterloo today.
Yeah, we're going to be starting up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, atop the red Terran player. He is going to be going by the name of Velo in the game, but his name is the Riddler of Waterloo. Sorry, Sugar. We know that the song was getting good, but this game is going to be even better.
And his opponent in the bottom right-hand corner, playing for UC Berkeley, it is the Blue Protoss player, Padre.
I'm not going to lie, Joe. Any team that kind of is, they stick with the colors, their team colors or the university colors, they always just are a little bit better in my book because I like UC Berkeley being blue. It just makes sense to me. It feels right.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Is that like their school colors? I guess I don't watch UC Berkeley in any of like the college sports.
Their school flag, I believe it's like, I think it's the Bears, and I believe that it's like a blue flag with like a yellow outline of a bear or something.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I guess, like, I always think of California blue because, like, it's always blue on the election maps. And Canada's red. Waterloo's in Canada, right? Their flag is red and white. So even without that, Waterloo's in Canada, right?
Waterloo? Sorry, you have me thinking about an election map, and now I'm thinking about the entirety of Canada on an election map being red.
No, I meant their flag. Just their flag is red.
I don't think they participate in the U.S. elections. I know that joke that Canada is a territory of the United States, but we're not being serious, Joe. I'm just kidding. But okay, this is going to be a Protoss versus Terran. We were talking about how the Riddler is going to, as Joe, I'm pretty sure, is looking up to see the flag or the like the team colors or university colors for Waterloo. So while he does that, let's talk a little bit about this match. Again, Padre, a player that has potential. He's definitely been up there as like a competitive pro player, or at least a semi-pro player that's really done quite a bit in the scene, but he also has not really been playing as much lately. And you can still bust some weird things out, especially I think like busting out some of those older strategies that may catch your opponent off guard. They kind of sit there and say, wait, what was that? That actually might be a really, really valid way to actually win this. But the Riddler is going to come in as a little bit of a favorite.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, though, because I feel like some of kind of the Heart of the Swarm era builds have fallen like back into the meta, like things like 7 and 8 gate attacks with lots of blink stalkers.
Yep.
So Padre could be feeling right at home in this current meta, and that's a thing that happens sometimes.
Well, Joe, I think you're reading Padre's mind right now, because he is going to be getting out that blink, but his stalkers not exactly in position, and especially I'm kind of surprised the stalkers were sitting over in the main base right there, or at least one of them was, because I think he was hoping that he would catch the Reaper if it moved straight up into the main, but the other stalker was also out of position, so he ends up losing one probe, which is never how you want to start a game. But the Reaper doesn't get into the main base. He doesn't necessarily know what's coming yet.
Yeah, but Padre doesn't know what's coming either, and it looks like the Riddler's first couple Cyclones already going to be moving across the map here, and Padre wants to deal with this Reaper right away so he doesn't take any premature damage, or any more premature damage before the Cyclones get here.
Joe, there's no pylon on the low ground, and he does see the Cyclones now, but he can't build a shield battery. He doesn't have any kind of really quick reinforcements over here once Warp Gate finishes up. He's chrono boosting out Warp Gate, but he legitimately might have to give up his natural for a little bit.
Yeah, this is a scary push. The Riddler actually getting a bunker down as well. If Padre can snipe this SCV, he can stop that from happening. He is going to pull probes to try to defend here. And, ooh, this is rough.
Yeah, he picks up the Reaper, which is actually kind of nice, because otherwise it really messes with the AI of the Stalkers. You can actually use their Reaper Grenade to knock the Stalkers into the Cyclones, and then they just disappear in an instant. But we end up seeing finally some warp-ins of some of these Stalkers. A Blink is about to finish up. It's very close to it, but he's not going to have it in time for this big little skirmish here.
Yeah, and one Stalker does go down immediately here. Padre reduced to just 3 as he's trying his best to hold on. And he's fighting at less than 1 Stalker to 1 Cyclone. That's a scary fight to take.
Yeah, and if he had gotten up that pylon, maybe he had a shield battery on the way. Maybe he can actually help defend against this additional wave of aggression. He's already down in workers, and actually because of that, it seems like the Riddler is just saying, yeah, you know, I did my job. My third base is on the way. I not only killed off your worker count, but I also pushed back your Stalkers a little bit. I killed off 2 of them, and now I can just sit back at home and defend. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, Padre is going to try to push out here, but the army of the Riddler, quite formidable with a siege tank already lined up at the natural here. And if he tries to knock on this front door, he's going to take tank shells to the face.
Yeah, only 1 siege tank out right now, but a second siege tank on the way as well. And we already see that 1 siege tank shot softening up the shields of all these Stalkers. There is no high ground vision. Padre cannot blink up over to that main base or blink up past the supply depots or do anything super fancy just yet. He has a robotic facility that got started up a little while ago. It's producing that first immortal while he gets up charge and starts thinking about maybe a transition, but I guess the big question to me is he going to get that third? He has a probe position for it.
Yeah, I think he might be wondering the same question himself. He's investing into a lot of things right now. He does have the money for the third, and yeah, he is going to go for that. So we're going to see him try to play this game out a little bit longer. He's not going to try to go into anything where he's going to be attempting to kill the Riddler right now. Instead, he's looking for kind of a flank on here. I mean, he does have Blink, right? Maybe he can do some dancing and try to get past the siege tank, but anything he does is going to be so risky.
Yeah, and this is also the other hard part about this kind of situation is that the Riddler, he goes by the name of Velo, but it's not just for show also. He actually does love playing mech, and he loves playing these kind of late game situations. So I do feel like trying to take this into a late game situation versus the Riddler may not always work out the best, especially since he's playing from behind from the beginning. Unless Padre goes for some kind of greedy advantage, I don't actually know how this is going to work out that well in his favor.
Yeah, a greedy advantage, or like maybe he thinks, you're the Riddler, you play kind of like a Villo, maybe I can multitask you to death and just come in with warp prisms and drops and try to pull you apart that way. Other than that, it's going to be hard, especially because just how this map works, you get the pocket third. The Riddler's playing mech, he might be content to just have all his gas income and be, a little bit mineral starved and feel like he can make all his production happen that way.
Yeah, I mean, even I would actually love to see a second Robo just producing these Immortals, and even just losing out on a little bit of that Immortal production time right now. Nothing on that Robo. He loses. It may not seem like a big deal, but 5-10 seconds, you add that up a couple of times, that's an extra Immortal, maybe 2 Immortals, and that can make or break the difference versus this kind of mech army.
Yeah, it's really, really Cyclone heavy and really Siege Tank heavy, so I think we're going to see Padre desperately trying to find a way to engage that, and he's going for High Templars now, probably to make Archons to help buffer up with this, offer a little bit of splash to engage with the Riddler's army at the front. But I wonder, when Padre, who is not that active of a player, when was the last time do you think he played PvT mech? It could have been a long time ago.
Yeah, there are actually a few Terran players out there that have been going for this kind of mech style, so I do imagine that Padre, having just been one of those players that doesn't play as much, is going to be probably feeling a little foreign to him, but he's not, just the fact that he's not adding on the second Robo, it's almost kind of like he's not doing the old school response to Protoss versus Terran mech, because the old school response was always just get up your second Robo, chrono out a bunch of Immortals, and then crush your opponent's army, because you're just gonna one-sidedly kill it. But Padre is actually going for a lot of these charge lots. He's getting up the Archons. He is not going for Storm or anything. He's just looking to get up this really strong, I want to say almost mid-game army, to kill this attack from the Riddler. But the Riddler is just content to sit until he maxes out.
Yeah, it's actually like really unfortunate to watch. It actually looks like the Riddler gonna get a run by here, maybe even take down a bunch of these probes. Blue Flame is done on these Hellions, which means they can kill workers really, really quickly. And here comes the Korean barbecue. Big unit warping coming in the back line here. This is eventually gonna get cleaned up, but not before it takes out quite a few probes.
Yeah, I mean, a decent number of probes go down over there, but at the end of the day, it's not too bad saturation in that main base right now for Padre. He's like maybe 5 workers short of full saturation. He's getting that tucked away 4th base finally, and honestly, I would really love to see him go for just another base, double expand or something. Like, I don't really see the long-term potential of this army just yet, because all he's doing is he's adding on more Archons, which is all well and good, but the Archons have a hard time closing the distance versus this many Siege Tanks and this many Cyclones, and even just getting past the Hellions. Like, you just take so much damage in the process there.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, we have seen Padre be like somewhat active on the map with this army, and I wonder if he's almost hoping to time it so he catches the Riddler on a move out, because that is the one time that these mech armies can be somewhat vulnerable. Your tanks need to siege up to fight effectively. But even as I say that, he seems to be ceding map control to the Riddler, and that's got me really worried as the Riddler just takes the whole map with these Hellion patrols.
Yeah, this is going to get a little bit rough. He is going to catch some of these Hellions on this, I guess, the left-hand side of his natural expansion, but over by his third, we got some Hellions turning into Hellbats, actually losing out on maybe an opportunity to get some more damage done, because the probes are able to escape out of there pretty quickly, at least move a little bit further south. And the reinforcing warp-in is going to be able to clean up these Hellbats, maybe? Another Hellbat even coming in. Actually, he's going to have to reinforce a little bit more. Yeah,
this is a bit of a tough one for Padre here. And these are actually going to morph back into Hellions, and 2 of them are going to be able to skate away around that right-hand side path. The Riddler is probably got to be getting close to the point where he feels comfortable moving out. He's sitting at 165 supply here with a mech army like this. A lot of the times you feel pretty happy moving out around 180 supply. The rest of your reinforcements are a little bit faster moving. And, oh man, being down in supply versus a mech army when you're not operating on something like carrier tech is just a cruddy feeling.
Yeah, you can see that even as he tries to knock out the rocks, like, so many of these Archons are just unable to get involved in the battle. There are a bunch of ghosts also coming out as well. If the EMPs are on point, if they hit a handful of the Archons, if they hit the Immortals, I think that this is really going to be a pretty difficult push for Padre to make work. But I think that this is actually going to be his only real opportunity. The problem is this map also just, oh god, he loses the Warp Prism. Oh, can't even reinforce now. This is the really hard part, is where does he even try to force the engagement if the Riddler isn't moving out? preemptively. He's going to try and move in, but this angle that he's going to, it's just a choke point. There's not even a base over there.
Yeah, he's going to try to make something happen with the high ground vision here, but the Riddler manages to ward him off with those tank shells. And
Cyclone's on the other side of the map. There's just nothing. There's nothing there to defend it.
yeah, this is so bad for Padre here. He's going to warp in 5 Zealots. They can get on top of the Cyclone, and they can clean up the attack eventually if the Riddler wants to fight this head on. But he lost his natural Nexus, did Padre, and he's in so much trouble. He might be able to take out this base, which would be nice.
This is going to be a problem, Joe. There's not an observer on the map, and there's a nuke going down in his third. And he doesn't seem to realize it because he's moving around with his army. He's trying to take out the gold base and stop him from mining. And there goes the nuke, and there go most of his probes. Padre is actually even supply blocked now, so he can't even make units.
Yeah, and Padre backs off here. Kind of like the one thing he had going for him was that position on that base. He is going to try to re-engage it before the planetary can get back up, but I think this could be...
Oh, no. He's going after the planetary instead of the siege tanks that were on siege, but now the siege tanks are sieged up, and they do a ton of damage here. The ghost coming at the very end, splattering EMPs everywhere. GG, and the Riddler ties up the series 1-1.
Yeah, really well done by the Riddler there. Just, it felt like he was in complete control of the game from moment 1 till the last second there. And that's going to bring our series to 1-1, like you mentioned. It really keeps Waterloo in the series here. And we're going to 2v2 on an even footing, which is pretty exciting.
And again, I want to go back to something that you were saying before, Joe. It is very critical for Waterloo to try and take the next 2 games here, because that is how they seize the momentum and just shut down Berkeley from the beginning. They don't let Silky come out again in that ace match. And if they can do that, then awesome. They're in a great spot. If they cannot do that, though, they have to have some sort of plan for Silky. And I feel like the Riddler is going to have to be that plan. It seems most likely, at least. I've got to give some credit to Yenfu. He did a great job in that first game, but it's still going to be a little bit rough. So we'll see if Waterloo can try and pull this series back in their favor after that last victory.
Spawning here in the top left-hand corner, playing for Waterloo, it is Buster and his teammate, Locke.
And spawning on the south side of the map, we have the yellow Terran player. Give it up for GYX. And his teammates, the blue Protoss player, it's Intuition. They are going to be playing for UC Berkeley. If you have trouble with colors, just remember, the team that has a blue player on it is Berkeley, because they're
Berkeley, blue, Bluecley.
Bluecley?
Now, we actually, I think this is with Tempo, not with you, but we casted a UC Berkeley game recently here, and Intuition GYX was an interesting team, because Intuition, I think, is a high-level player, like High Masters or GM maybe, and GYX was a bit lower, like in Platinum. So it seemed like they just had a game plan, try to do some damage early on, and then, let Intuition carry the late game. Whereas Buster, I know, is pretty good. I don't know anything about Locke, so I'm curious to see what Waterloo's approach to 2v2s is going to be.
Well, with so many Terran in this matchup, it's really easy to look at that production tab and just get a sense of when things are going differently. And we already see that Buster and, of course, his teammate Locke going for this 3 Rax Reaper play. And you take a look at what Intuition and his teammate GYX are doing. GYX is going for a 1-1-1 setup, which is really gonna struggle until he gets out a Cyclone. And his teammate Intuition, I think, is actually gonna be even more unprepared, because his Cybernetics core is only just now finishing up, and he's got a proxy pylon going for a proxy robo, which is gonna be all well and good, but he can't defend back at home.
Yeah, so here comes the first of the Reapers, and I really like seeing them say first and ping and stuff. It's cool to get to see that communication as this attack begins. SCV is already coming off the line from GYX, but doing a really good job of dancing around here is Waterloo.
Yeah, Waterloo able to kill off a ton of units already. GYX is already in a world of trouble. He's trying to get out that Cyclone, but just these 2 Reapers doing this much damage, and it's a 6 Rax Reaper. Let's be real about this, Joe. 3 barracks from each one of these guys. This is so incredibly difficult to actually defend against a 3-Rax Reaper. When you double that and you don't have your teammate able to help out because he's going for a proxy robo, double proxy robo on the other side of the map, how do you even deal with this? And again, like, at the end of the day, Intuition needs to have a way to defend back at home, and I'm not sure he has that yet.
Yeah, oh, these Reapers are actually going to catch this Cyclone out, and it's trying to make something happen here. But 6 Reapers is too many Reapers. That Cyclone goes down, and it looks like the Reaper army going to march on up into Intuition's base here. He's got 2 Adepts. Is that going to be enough with the shield battery? Maybe he can pull some probes to try to make the fight happen here.
The shield battery's already out of energy at this point, Joe, and now the probes being pulled, they're just going to get picked off one by one. We already have GYX, the yellow Terran player for Berkeley, already down to 6 workers, and now Intuition is going to be joining him, possibly going even lower. We got Manor Mules coming down, it looks like, from Locke. Oh man, Waterloo. I think they've done it at this point. I don't even see how Berkeley can actually come back from this.
Yeah, there is a Warp Prism here. That's going to give some cool micro. Sometimes when your opponent drops Manor Mules, that makes you like more motivated to just make the game take longer, even if you know you're dead.
There's 2 reactions to them, right? It's either you immediately tap out or you just refuse to tap out after that.
Yeah, I do think Waterloo has cracked the UC Berkeley puzzle here, putting them in a really strong position to try to take this next game. But these Reapers are just doing absolute work on the map. The Immortals are being dropped here, and they're doing some damage. Need to be careful, Waterloo, not to let this go completely uncontested here.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there is a potential for Intuition. The problem is he's not mining anymore, so he can't make any more units. He's basically stuck with 2 Immortals and a Warp Prism to win the game at this point. There's maybe some Cyclones coming out right now for GYX. If he had a Starport and he had a Medevac, I could legitimately see him actually going across the map, taking out a bunch of lock stuff in combination with these Immortals, and then they shut down their opponent's ability to tech up, and maybe they can't really deal with the anti-air, or they don't have any anti-air for the Warp Prism and the Medevac, but just the 2 Immortals by themselves, I don't know how they can really equalize this game.
They're still so smart move from Buster here, calling out the Viking. Because that, right, like as long as you can control that Warp Prism, you win the game. And Buster, really smart to identify that. Really cute micro continuing to come out of Intuition here, but it does look like he's starting to try to fight against the tides as the unit count of Buster and his teammate keep growing. Intuition leaves. More Manor Mules come down. GG is called. Waterloo puts a second game on the board.
And this is exactly what their game plan needs to be. They need to do one more game. They just need to win one more in that game 4. As again, that's going to end up being, I believe, Intuition versus Buster. I believe that Buster also goes by the name Sidus on the CSL website for those who are wondering. But this is going to be another Terran versus Protoss, so a lot on the line here. UC Berkeley really, really needs to try and shut down Waterloo here so that they can go to that game 5. Otherwise, they're out. Then they're going to end up in 4th place for the groups, and Waterloo will end up 1st.
Yeah, so does 4th place qualify through to the playoff bracket? I think it does, but I think that's the last place that qualifies through.
I believe it does, but at the same time, like, you never want to be coming in as the last seed, because if you're the last seed, then you go up against the teams that are maybe undefeated or have only lost 1 game or something like that, and that is never really the comfortable position. That's how you get eliminated in the first round of the playoffs.
All right, guys, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with the next 1v1.
lost again. The ashes burn down brightest when we've everything to lose. So scribble me out. Mistakes erased, forgotten. Life goes on without me.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the CSL. We are hopping into match point in a moment or two here between UC Berkeley and Waterloo.
Yeah, a lot of pressure right now for UC Berkeley as they're facing potentially getting 3-1 here. They cannot turn this around, but here we go. We're going to be starting up here in the top left-hand corner of the map. Top of the red Terran player, give it up for Waterloo's Buster.
And his opponent in the bottom right-hand corner, it is our blue Protoss player for UC Berkeley, Intuition.
Already liking that wall-in from Intuition. For those who don't know, you kind of put that pylon over there and you get the gateway going. If you actually throw it on the side next to there, you can start to kind of create a little bit of a wall off for the Reaper to be completely blocked off from entering from that side. Small little things. Sometimes this can maybe backfire because then you don't actually have any pylons close to your mineral line or to the ramp or anything like that, but I do like when Protoss players go for these kind of small little tricks.
Yeah, it does look like Intuition going to be going for a pretty quick probe scout here. Getting on up into the main. I think he's seeing that gas, thinking there's probably going to be a Reaper coming his way in the near future. Nothing too crazy. And he goes ahead and throws down that natural as well. And Buster also get the scout off, seeing that natural timing.
Yeah. Now, I've seen a lot of Buster's games. I've seen him actually do fairly well for himself. So I think he has actually got a pretty good shot here. I'm not as familiar with Intuition. I think I've seen a few of his games before, but not a ton. So in my mind, I really do think that Intuition has just got to really, really impress here. He's really got to shut down, kind of seize that control.
Yeah, probably Buster's crowning achievement is he qualified for Kings of the North, right?
Yeah, that's actually true. That's a good memory there. He qualified for a really fairly prestigious North American event. It's one of the few NA events that exist outside of the WCS circuit, besides that in Cheesadelphia and maybe some of the Psystorm Cups. So that one especially has a pretty sick lineup of players, and Buster did really well to qualify there. We'll see what he can actually do over here as, yeah, he just continues to go into a pretty normal looking game. He gets up his bunker to try and make sure he's not cutting too many corners, gets up his expansion, his factory.
Yeah, it does look like, ooh, cute Proparas coming down here from Intuition, actually going to drive off that first SCV. And, I mean, it's not a huge deal, right? But then you delay the construction of the bunker, you lose a little bit of extra mining time. Nothing you're doing at this point in the game is to win. You just want to tilt your opponent a little bit, and I think scaring that SCV off is going to accomplish that.
Yeah, looks like the probe made its way all the way up into the main base, sees that there's the reactor on the barracks, and it's not exactly a huge reveal or anything, but there are some Terran players lately who have liked going for those reactor Hellion builds. You kind of move in with a bunch of Hellions, and it really catches your opponent off guard sometimes. Sometimes the Pro players are just like, oh, well, I have like 2 Stalkers. Is this enough? Like, yeah, you'll kill the Hellions, but you're also going to lose around 7 or 8 workers in the process because you just don't have a wall going.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like Intuition going for Blink here. Going to be getting those Blink Stalkers out. That's going to give him a little bit more mobility. He can maybe deal with the bio a bit. And he's going to be getting some more gateways. So we might be seeing some Blink Stalker pressure out of him on the front of Buster.
We got a Fusion Core being proxied in the bottom left-hand side of the map. So Intuition very unlikely to ever scout this out, or at least not anytime in the near future. So the Blink opening is actually going to be kind of nice for helping to deal with things, what I imagine is going to be Liberator range, but I am always just ready to hold my judgment just in case something crazy happens, because we do actually also have a Raven coming out.
Yeah. So the Raven, I guess you can use the Raven to kind of help out with Liberators or any kind of like absolutely wacky battlecruiser build that it could be here. I'm really curious to see what starts researching once that Fusion Core is done. And yeah, it is going to be that Liberator range.
Advanced ballistics for the Liberator range, and Intuition is also starting to move across the map with some of these Stalkers, but it's worth noting he's only on 3 gateways right now while he grabs a 3rd. This is a very light Stalker pressure. He's not even adding on more gateways just yet. And Buster, well, he started coming in with that SCV, but he realizes he really wants to scout to see if there's a 3rd base. That's going to be a huge reveal. And seeing some of these Stalkers at the front, Blink has been revealed now as he blinks up into the natural. Sniping up a couple of these workers is nice, but this is a bit of a sacrifice.
Yeah, trading out 2 Stalkers for 2 SCVs isn't going to feel great as the Protoss player, and it's going to feel even worse once these ranged Liberators start setting up shop all over these kind of aerial dead zones, and Stalkers are going to be the only thing that can chase them away in the immediate future.
Yeah, I think the Stalkers are going to be able to do a pretty nice job at shutting down the Liberators, just because the Liberators still, they 3-shot Stalkers, so you end up actually being able to take out the Liberators usually, especially with this many Stalkers out. Before the Liberators manage to get too many kills, as long as you're quick on those probe pulls, even with the Liberator range, you can clean them up relatively quickly if you're quick to react. But if Intuition is a little bit too far out on the map, he's got these Stalkers poached actually very far forward, and nothing overall. 3 Stalkers by the natural. I guess actually he's relatively well defended here.
Yeah, it looks like this first Liberator going to sweep in, see if it can find a position here to pick away at these probes, and it is going to find one quickly here. Are these Stalkers going to just blink in under it? Yes, they do. One might go down. No, actually, so far so good by Intuition.
It does find a really nice spot and manages to pick off that Liberator with just 1 Stalker in range of those. Really, really nicely done. A little unfortunate for Buster. I'm sure that he thought that might have actually been a safe spot, but gets a little bit too close to the sun, ends up getting burnt.
Yeah, there is going to be a second Liberator on the way, but I feel like Liberators, it's almost like Oracles, where if your first one does a bunch of damage, it tends to snowball. If your first one doesn't do a lot of damage, the second one seems to look like an even easier defend a lot of the times.
All right, Observer getting picked off over here. I guess the Raven is... I mean, if you kill off even 2 Observers, I think the Raven is actually starting to pay for itself. And I'm actually also thinking about how some of the changes have happened for the Raven. There's been huge buffs for the Raven in specifically TVZ. But I actually think that those buffs may end up applying to TVP as well. For those who don't know, the anti-armor missile now basically launches almost immediately as a slightly increased splash range. It does slightly more damage, but the damage isn't really the big part of it. It's about how it reduces armor for units. But here's the important thing to take away from that, is that you can go below 0 armor. So you can have -2 or -3 armor. If a probe or something, like probe or SCV or something is a really easy example, an SCV does 5 damage. If you had a unit that had 0 armor and you take an anti-armor missile, that probe or that SCV is now going to do 8 damage because you're at -3 armor. Now imagine how that stacks with the Marines. It's basically like having an extra +3 weapons upgrade for your Marines. If you have +2 weapons, you now have +5 weapons. Like, it gets pretty insane pretty quickly.
Yeah, that can definitely be dangerous here for Intuition. He's got to be super aware of how anything like that might go in an engagement. But it does look like he wants to play out a macro game continuously. He's adding on that 4th base. It looks like he's adding on a Void Ray right now, more gate phase. He seems a little bit scared of maybe taking a fight with like a weird kind of super techie army. He's got his storm out. He wants to build up that energy, get his army a little bit more solid, and he's going to be feeling very confident. But he has to survive this move out with all this bio.
Oh yeah, this is gonna get a little bit scary, but like you said, he's got a lot of these tech. He's got a lot of these High Templar as well. He can actually feedback not only the medevacs, but also that Raven. Although there come those anti-armor missiles. Oh my god, all the stalkers get tagged. Feedback comes down a little bit too late, but the storms are not too late.
Yeah, those were very good storms. Cleans up almost all the bio. The stalkers, even with their reduced armor, are able to get on top of that tank. Ooh, can you get that Raven for free? That's also a nice pickup. One medevac goes down. And Intuition suddenly feeling like he may be able to do a bit of a counter as he moves across the map with his Blink Stalker army.
Yeah, a couple of Liberators getting sieged up by that third. He's not sure where the army's going to poke forward. It looks like he guessed right. Intuition doesn't want to move up that ramp to the supply depots. So he's going to try and move into the more open area by the third. But these barracks are actually going to be really nice for him as well, because it's going to try and filter in this Protoss army. The Archons might have a little bit harder of a time, but man, Intuition has got a really good potential to make something happen here if Buster cannot get up enough to defend.
Yeah, he is going to start by picking off these mines for free. He does have one High Templar with, I think, one storm available. Here comes the High Templar reinforcements, and I think once you get that AoE from the storms, he suddenly has just so much more potential to try to make things happen here.
Yeah, both these players on even upgrades. 1-1 for both sides, and 2-2 still a good ways away, but a fleet beacon coming out, as well as another Stargate. Looks like Intuition preparing for a large number of Liberators to coming out, but actually, funny enough, because he killed off all those medevacs, we just see more medevacs coming out right now for Buster. He's not focused on that Liberator production.
Yeah, Intuition's still trying to make something happen in the front here. He's not trying too hard to force his way in. He knows between the Liberators doing that zoning and then all of the Widow Mines offering splash damage here, he can have things go south very quickly for him. If he loses those shields, the bio can get right on top of his army. So instead, he's just kind of waltzing back and forth between the area in front of the third and the natural. And he's saying, dance with me, Buster. And if Buster misses a step, he's going to pounce.
Yeah, Buster has been pretty on point so far. I mean, some stims forced out here and there. It's obviously a little bit of good damage done, but also keeping the energy on those medevacs not too high is kind of important. You don't want them to just get instantly fed back and lose all of your ability to heal your army. But now those Tempests are starting to come on out. Buster has a bunch of supply depots to unsupply block himself, but he's also, I think, wants to probably grab a fourth base sometime soon. Because he's got up the Ghost Academy, he's gotten up a lot of his tech and everything, but the one thing I think he's missing is that kind of eventual, I should say, economy. Oh my god, those EMPs were so solid. That's a smart recall, but he's going to lose a lot in the process.
Yeah, he does manage to get his forces back at home, but like you said, energy down, shields down. That went from looking very good for Intuition to looking very dicey for him really quickly. There are now Tempests out, which is really going to help him break into kind of those zone-controlled, sieged up areas we were talking about. He just needs to be careful not to get caught out in an open space here.
Oh, Revelation to tag on these Liberators. There it goes. And now the Tempest can whittle away at those Liberators from a nice, safe range. But they got to be careful. They're actually a little bit poached too far forward. Might end up losing an Observer. No, it doesn't quite end up losing it. And even the Shield Batter heals it up. And, oh, man, this is scary army to engage into. But the Liberators doing some good work.
Yeah, and that actually, the army of Intuition there dropped really quickly. Needs to be careful not to be running forces underneath these Liberators, although it looks like he is going to be doing that once again here. Intuition doing a great job of staying on top of his upgrades, but right now his army's looking a little bit paltry compared to his opponent's giant force.
Yeah, if he's given a little bit more time to get that Liberator count up, or sorry, the Tempest count up to deal with any Liberators immediately, and he still has those storms available to at least ward back the army and buy himself some more time, make sure he doesn't get EMP'd again. I think that I really like Intuition's position, just because, again, far superior economy with 5 bases versus only just now a 4th base getting set up over here for Buster. But it is just about buying that time, making sure he doesn't take too much damage or doesn't face a big move out before he's ready.
It looks like Buster is going to be going for the move out once again here. Going to be pushing in through this open area. He's actually going to snake back around on this side. He's really abusing the immobility of those Tempests, I think. Although Intuition's done a good job of kind of splitting the difference between this area. But Buster gonna try to make something happen here on the south side before all the reinforcements can trickle in. Snipes go down on that High Templar right away. Good control here. Intuition's army starts trickling in. Some storms do come out, but not getting those hits they need.
Oh, those EMPs on 3 or 4 of the High Templars. There are some storms available, but no, now they're gone. And some nice little micro coming out from Buster, loading up some of these units in the medevac. He unloads them a little bit further back. He's losing the medevacs, but he is won the ground army fight. And now as the Archons disappear, the Stalkers disappear, there's nothing to protect the campus. And GG, Buster takes the 3-1 for his team. Waterloo is your victor.
Yeah, and that means Waterloo, I believe, wins the group of the CSL. Our
First place.
Yeah, first place. Our playoffs gonna be coming up in the near future. I think we have one more regular season game this Thursday, and I believe that's it for the CSL regular season, guys. So thank you to our sponsor Twitch for helping to make this happen. Congratulations to Waterloo.
Yeah, really, really awesome. When you make it out first place in your group, it's not only just a really good feeling because, you know, you feel good about yourself for getting first place in anything, right? But you know that playoffs bracket is going to be catered a little bit better to you. You're going to know that your first round opponents maybe not going to be the toughest opponents. They can still, I mean, everyone that makes it to the playoffs is going to be tough to some extent. But it's not necessarily going to be the high super caliber favored team to make it to the finals or something that you might get a little bit unlucky matching up against. So Waterloo going to feel much better about that. And Berkeley, well, I believe fourth place, as we talked about before, still does make it to the playoffs. It's not going to be a super comfortable position. They are going to have to sort of earn their right to make it on further into the bracket in that very first round.
Yeah, I did just hear from Powerfo that it looks like we actually have 3 more casts of the regular season. So you've got that coming up, guys. That's going to be all wrapping up the groups, you know, the seeding, who makes it and who doesn't. Those should be a lot of fun. And we'll be back with our next one on Thursday. So we will see you then.